Our next speaker is Diganta Biswa Sarma, son of noted poet, lyricist and translator, late Kailash Nath Sarma, actively associated with the art of debating since his early school life. He has been a successful debater, bagging innumerable prizes, and is often invited to act as judge, speaker in various debating competitions across schools and colleges of Assam. He joined government service as district transport officer after having qualified in the combined competitive examination conducted by the Assam Public Service Commission, but resigned subsequently for the pursuit of a different life in the light of the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. He was recently presented the Sahitya Academy Translation Award for his translation of Sri Aurobindo'S The Renaissance in India and other essays on Indian culture into Assamese under the title Bharatiya Sanskriti Bitti. Diganta Biswa Sarma now will speak on Sri Aurobindo's vision of Sanatana Dharma and his 5 dreams for New India.
Namaskar. Esteemed cultured souls present here in this August house, respected organizers, Pondicherry Lit Festival, learned speakers and scholars from across the country. Today's my speech is actually my offering from the deepest core of my heart at the lotus feet of Sri Aurobindo in this auspicious year of his sesquicentenary of his auspicious birth. Neither am I a scholar, nor do I possess any scholarship. Why then this audacity from my end? I have a sense of offering anything and everything at the lotus feet of the Supreme Divine Mother, and this is the sole source of my strength and audacity. And race belongs to her, because all is she alone doing. Do you know what was the last statement of Swami Vivekananda on Bharata Varsha? Can you guess what he could say? We all know his Mahasamadhi took place on 2nd July 1902. At almost 9 p.m. Swamiji was talking to Premananda, his Guru Bhai, at about 5:30 p.m. And at about 9 p.m., his Mahasamadhi took place. So, in my research, that was the last statement of Swami Vivekananda on India. And it was uttered just 3.5 hours ago, before his Mahasamadhi. Vivekananda said, India is immortal, but he immediately puts a condition. He said, India is immortal if she persists in her search for God. But immediately he said, but she will die. She will die if she goes in for social and political conflict. And this vision of Godwardness, this vision of discovery of God, this vision of our fulfillment in God is the ultimate vision of Sanatana Dharma. About which Sri Aurobindo had been incessantly trying to enlighten and awaken the nation throughout his life in physical existence. Let me utter another quote. We are Hindus and seeking to re-Hinduize society, not to Europeanize it. Case, who could utter this statement? We are Hindus and seeking to re-Hinduize society and not to Europeanize it. It was uttered none other than by Maharishi Sri Aurobindo after he came to Pondicherry. We are Hindus and we want to re-Hinduize society and not to Europeanize it. But what is the Hindu Dharma? What is the Hindu Dharma? And he said in another occasion, we are Hindus and necessarily spiritual in our temperament. He wrote prodigiously on Sanatana Dharma. He wrote prodigiously on Sanatana Dharma. At least 20 volumes contains references to Hinduism. 20 volumes of his works contain references to Sanatana Dharma or the Hinduism. So my presentation on this subject would be a sort of, it would be a glimpse and directly from his words, not with my inferior interpretation. So he said, we are Hindus and necessarily spiritual in our temperament. Because the work which we have to do is a work which no other nation could accomplish. And what is this work? The spiritualization of the whole human race. Spiritualization of the whole human race. And he said one thing. So what is Hinduism? That we want to re-Hinduize society, not to Europeanize it. One thing at least is certain about Hinduism, whether religious or social. He said that its work, its whole outlook is Godward. Its whole outlook is Godward. Its whole search and business is the discovery of God and our fulfillment in God. Discovery of God and our fulfillment in God. And that is why Swamiji perhaps said, India is immortal if she persists in her search for God, and she will die if she goes in for social and political conflict. But what is Hinduism? What is Hinduism? Maharishi, in his august and historic Uttarpara speech, said, we speak often of the Hindu religion, of the Sanatana Dharma. So Sanatana Dharma is Hindu religion. It's clear. So we speak often of the Hindu religion, of the Sanatana Dharma. But few of us really know what that religion is. What is that religion? Maharishi says, other religions are preponderantly religions of faith and profession. But the Sanatana Dharma is the life itself. So Sanatana Dharma is the life itself. It is a thing that has not so much to be believed. Not so much to be believed. Then what it is? It is to be lived. Not so much to be believed, but it is to be lived. This is the Dharma that for the salvation of humanity was cherished in the seclusion of this peninsula from the old. This is the Dharma that for the salvation of humanity was cherished in the seclusion of this peninsula from old. It is to give this religion, that India is rising. India is rising. She is rising to set the eternal light. She is rising to set the eternal light entrusted to her over the world. And in 1911, after he came to Pondicherry, in a letter to Parthasarathi Iyengar, Maharishi writes, spirituality is India's only politics. Spirituality is India's only politics. The fulfillment of Sanatana Dharma is only Swaraj. Spirituality is India's only politics, and fulfillment of Sanatana Dharma is only Swaraj. But then what is Swaraj in his vision? Spirituality, we all know. But what is Swaraj in his vision? Maharishi says, in our view, self-government is merely one aspect of Swaraj. Self-government is merely one aspect of Swaraj. Then what is Swaraj in his view, in his vision? We speak of Swaraj we speak of Swaraj, we mean the principle of national life. By Swaraj, we mean the principle of national life. Not only the self-government, but the principle of national life. So the principle of national life is Swaraj in his vision. So the meaning of Swaraj in our ancient literature is the spiritual condition of the soul. So Swaraj in his vision is the national life. Swaraj in our ancient literature is the spiritual condition of the soul, which attains to mukti. So Swaraj is spiritual condition of the soul, not only self-government. It is something beyond self-government. It is the spiritual condition of the soul. So what is the spiritual condition of the soul? Maharishi says, when the soul is independent of everything, but itself, when it exists in the joy of its light and greatness, when it is mukta, that is the spiritual condition of the soul, and that is Swaraj, not only self-government. So Swaraj is our national life, and Swaraj is the spiritual condition of the soul. So then what is Sanatana Dharma? In his Foundations of Indian Culture, he says, a spiritual aspiration was the governing force of this culture. Not political aspiration, not economics, not political, not military. A spiritual aspiration was the governing force of this culture. Its core of thought, its ruling passion. Then, what is Sanatana Dharma? Why then it is dharma, not spirituality? Maharishi says, the highest spirituality indeed moves in a free and wide air. Far above the lower stage of seeking, which is governed by religious form and dogma. Then why Sanatana Dharma? Maharishi explained, but man does not arrive immediately at the highest inner elevation, and if it were demanded from him at once, he would never arrive there. At first, he needs lower supports. And stages of ascent. He asks for some scaffolding. Or dogma, worship, image, sign, form, symbol. Some indulgence and permission of mixed natured motive on which he can stand while he builds up in him the temple of the spirit. Only when the temple is completed can the support be removed, the scaffolding disappear. The religious culture, which now goes by the name of Hinduism, not only fulfill this purpose, but unlike certain cradle religions, it knew its purpose. And what is its purpose? It gave itself no name. Because it set itself no sectarian limits. It claimed no universal adhesion. Asserted no sole infallible dogma. Set up no single narrow path like Semitic religions. Or gate of salvation. It was less a creed or cult than a continuously enlarging tradition. Of the Godward endeavor of the human spirit. An immense, many-sided, many-stage provision for a spiritual self-building and self-finding. It had some right to speak of itself. And what was that right? by the only name it knew, by the only name it knew, the eternal religion, the Sanatana Dharma. But why then it is called Hinduism then, if it is Sanatana Dharma? Why it is called Hinduism then? Perhaps Maharishi is the first. Perhaps Maharishi is the first to use the term Hindu nation. In my opinion, Maharishi Sri Aurobindo is the first to term the word or phrase Hindu nation in his Uttarpara speech. Not once, twice. In the Uttarpara speech, he has used this term twice, Hindu nation. So, in his Uttarpara speech, he defines why it is called Hinduism, why it is called Hindu religion. If it is Sanatana Dharma, why it is called Hinduism as well. But what is the Hindu religion? What is the Hindu religion? What is this religion which we call Sanatan, eternal? Maharishi unambiguously, unhesitatingly said, it is the Hindu religion. It is the Hindu religion. And why? Only because the Hindu nation has kept it. This is the answer. Why it is called Hindu religion? Because Hindu nation has kept it. I think nobody before him used this term Hindu nation. Only Maharishi Aurobindo has used in his Uttarpara speech twice, not once. So it is the Hindu religion only because the Hindu nation has kept it. Because in this peninsula, it grew up in the seclusion of the sea and the Himalayas. Because in this sacred and ancient land, it was given as a charge to the Aryan race to preserve through the ages. It is Hindu religion because Hindu nation has kept it. So Hindu is a nation, Maharishi said. And that which we call the Hindu religion, is really the eternal religion. Because it is the universal religion, not a religion of India. Because it is the universal religion which embraces all others. If a religion is not universal, it cannot be eternal. If a religion is not universal, it cannot be eternal. A narrow religion, a sectarian religion, an exclusive religion can live only for a limited time. And for a limited purpose. So then he explains what is Hindu religion. This is the one religion that can triumph over materialism. By including and anticipating the discoveries of science and the speculation of philosophy. This is the first characteristic. Second, it is the one religion which impresses on mankind. What it impresses on mankind? The closeness of God to us. And embraces in its compass all the possible means by which man can approach God. And that is why in his synthesis of yoga, Maharishi says, all life is yoga. Not only asana and pranayama, all life is yoga. Yoga is something beyond physical exercise. Yoga is a psychological process. Yoga is not something about asana and the pranayama. Asana and pranayama is one of the 1,000 means of yoga. Yoga is all life is yoga. And that is why he says, it is the one religion which impresses on mankind the closeness of God to us. And embraces in its compass all the possible means by which man can approach God. And that is why Swamiji in his Mahasamadhi day says, India is immortal if she persists in her search for God, and she will die if she goes in for social and political conflict. Then, third characteristics, it is the one religion which insists every moment on the truth, which all religious acknowledge that He is in all man. He is in all men and all things, and that in Him we move and have our being. Fourth characteristics, it is the one religion which enables us not only to understand and believe this truth, but to realize it with every part of our being. It is the one religion which shows the world what the world is. And what is the world? Vasudevam Sarvam iti. Vasudevam Sarvam iti, that it is the Leela of Vasudeva. It is the one religion which shows to the world. It is the one religion which does not separate life. It is the one religion which does not separate life in any smallest details from religion, which knows what immortality is. Sanatana Dharma knows, Hindu Dharma knows what immortality is, and utterly remove from us the reality of death. Reality of death. So there is no reality of death. So, but what are the kinds of Hinduism? Then Maharishi says there are two kinds of Hinduism. Two kinds of Hinduism. So there are two Hinduism. One which takes its stand on the kitchen. One which takes its stand on the kitchen and seeks its paradise by cleaning the body. So this is one kind of Hinduism. And there is another kind of Hinduism. What is that? Another which seeks God. Another which seeks God, not through the cooking pot, not through the cooking pot and the social convention, but in the soul. But in the soul. And it is the Hinduism of Bhishma and Sri Krishna. So the second kind of Hinduism is the Hinduism of the Bhishma and Krishna, of Shankara and Chaitanya. The Hinduism which exceeds Hinduism. The Hinduism which exceeds Hinduism. And its watchword is not Kriya. The second kind of Hinduism, its watchword is not Kriya, but then what? But Karma. Not Kriya, but Karma. Not Shastra. Not Shastra, but Jnanam. Not Shastra, but Jnanam. Not Asara, but Bhakti. So, not Kriya, but Karma. Not Shastra, but Jnanam. Not Asara, but Bhakti. So, are we to reject Asara, Kriya and Shastra? Maharishi says, no, not at all. Maharishi says, yet it accepts Kriya, Shastra and Asara. But how? Not as ends to be followed. Not an ends to be followed for their own sake, but as means to perfect karma, jnanam and bhakti. So to perfect karma, jnanam and bhakti, we need kriya, asara and the shastra. So why then Maharishi says Sanatana Dharma is nationalism? Then Maharishi says Sanatana Dharma is the nationalism. Why Sanatana Dharma is nationalism? In his Uttarpada speech, Maharishi spoke again. I spoke once before with this force in me, and I said then that this movement is not a political movement. Obviously, he was referring to Swadeshi movement or the freedom movement. And Maharishi categorically said that I spoke once before with this force in me, and I said then that this movement is not a political movement. And that nationalism is not politics, but a religion, a creed, a faith. But I say it again today, I say it again today, but I put it in another way. But I put it in another way. And what is that another way? I say no longer that nationalism is a creed, a religion, a faith. Then what it is? I say it is the Sanatana Dharma. It is the Sanatana Dharma which for us is nationalism. In a system of national education, in a passage, what he wrote, let me quote. Why he calls Sanatana Dharma is nationalism. In his A System of National Education, Maharishi writes, but whether distinct teachings in any form of religion is imparted or not, the essence of religion, and what is the essence of religion? To live for God, for humanity, for country, for others, and for oneself in these must be made the ideal in every school. Must be made ideal in every school which calls itself national. It is this spirit of Hinduism. It is this spirit of Hinduism pervading our schools, which should be the essence of nationalism. Which should be the essence of nationalism in our school, distinguish them from all others. So, what should be the essence of nationalism? To live for God, for humanity, for country, for others, and for oneself in this. And that is why in Uttarpara speech, he says that the Sanatana Dharma, which for us is nationalism. This Hindu nation, again, he used the word Hindu nation. This Hindu nation was born with the Sanatana Dharma. With it, it moves. With it grows. When the Sanatana Dharma declines, then the nation declines. If the Sanatana Dharma were capable of perishing, with the Sanatana Dharma, it would perish. The Sanatana Dharma, it is nationalism. Sanatana Dharma, it is nationalism. Then, what is the credo of Hinduism? Is there any credo of Hinduism, like Semitic religion? Normally, the answer would be no. But Maharishi here speaking about credo of Hinduism. Credo of Hinduism. So, what is Hinduism? In his Foundations of Indian Culture, he again says, and if we are asked, but after all, what is Hinduism? If we are asked, after all, what is Hinduism? What does it teach? What does it practice? What are its common factors? We are speaking about commonality of, or the common roots of Indian nationhood. So Maharishi says, if we are asked, but after all, what is Hinduism? What does it teach? What does it practice? What are its common factors? We can answer that Indian religion is founded upon three basic ideas. Hinduism is based on three basic ideas. And what are three basic ideas? Or rather, three fundamentals of a highest and widest spiritual experience. Three fundamentals. And what is these three fundamentals of Hinduism? Then Maharishi says, first comes the idea of one existence. Idea of one existence of the Veda. One existence of the Veda, to whom sages give different names. And those different names all we know. And Maharishi says, this is the first common foundation. So, ekang sat vipra bahuda vadanti. This is the first credo. This is the first common foundation, but it can be and it is expressed in an endless variety of formulas by the human intelligence. So this is the first credo. And what is its second basic idea? Maharishi says, for its second basic idea is the manifold ways of man's approach. Manifold ways of man's approach to the eternal and infinite. So first one is one existence, one reality, one ultimate truth. But ekong vipra bahuda badanti. And what is its second credo? Second fundamental? The second fundamental is the manifold way of man's approach. Manifold way of man's approach to the eternal and infinite. And what is its third credo? Maharishi says the third idea of strongest consequence at the base of Indian religion is the most dynamic for the inner spiritual life. And what is that? So it is that while the supreme or the divine can be approached through a universal consciousness and piercing through all inner and outer nature, that or he can be made by each individual soul in itself, in its own spiritual part. So the inner divinity, the divinity within. So this is the third credo. So these are the three credos. So one existence, ekong sat, vipra bahuda badanti. The manifold ways, joto mot toto pot, manifold ways. And the third is our inner divinity. So that or he, that, either it is thought or he can be made by each individual soul in itself, in its own spiritual part. So this is together this. So because then Maharishi says, if there is any credo is needed, so these three things put together are the whole of Hindu religion. These three things are the whole of Hindu religion, its essential sense, and if any credo is needed, it's credo. If any credo is needed. Then what is the relation between Veda and Hinduism? Maharishi clearly says, I believe that Veda to be the foundation of Sanatana Dharma. Veda to be the foundation of the Sanatana Dharma. Then next important thing is, I was supposed to speak about his fivefold, his dreams for New India. And already yesterday, many speakers have spoken about his 5 dreams. So let me speak about his fourfold sadhana. His fourfold sadhana, and what was that fourfold sadhana, and conclude. His fourfold sadhana. And before that, Maharishi says, Ramakrishna gave to India. Bhagavan Ramakrishna Paramahansa gave to India the final message of Hinduism to the world. Final message of Hinduism to the world. Amal Kiran, the great sadhak, yogi and disciple of Maharishi, once said that from his trans-spiritual personality, true Indian nationalism was born. Not from Vivekananda, but from Bhagavan Ramakrishna Paramahansa. From his trans-spiritual personality, true Indian nationalism was born, said Amal Kiran. So Maharishi says, see, Ramakrishna gave to India the final message of Hinduism to the world. So what is his fourfold sadhana? Once in a letter to Motilal Roy at about in the year 1920, Maharishi says he has fourfold sadhana now. So what was that fourfold sadhana? The first was to re-explain Sanatana Dharma. To re-explain Sanatana Dharma to the human intellect in all its parts from a new standpoint. From a new standpoint, re-explaining the Sanatana Dharma to the world. This is his first sadhana. And what was the second? On the basis of the Vedic knowledge. On the basis of the Vedic knowledge, to establish a yogic sadhana. To establish a yogic sadhana which will not only liberate the soul, but prepare a perfect humanity. And help in the restoration of the Satya Yuga. And what was his third sadhana? The India being the center. India being the center to work for her restoration. To work for her restoration to her proper place in the world. To her proper place in the world. And by this restoration, but this restoration must be effected as a part of the above work and by means of yoga. By means of yoga applied to human means and instruments, not otherwise. And what was the fourth of his fourfold sadhana? A perfect humanity being intended. Society will have to be remodeled. Society have to be remodeled so as to be fit to contain that perfection. So, yesterday, the Secretary, Thoroville Foundation, respected Robiji, has spoken about fivefold dreams of Sri Aurobindo, but let me quote one thing and conclude. So, what in his Independence Day message of 1947, Maharishi says, after elaborating about his fivefold dreams, Maharishi says, here too, if this evolution is to take place, since it must come through a growth of the spirit and the inner consciousness, the initiative can come from India. And in his Independence Day message, with these words, Maharishi concludes his Independence Day message that here too, if this evolution is to take place, since it must come through a growth of the spirit and the inner consciousness, the initiative can come from India. And although the scope must be universal, the central movement may be hers. And last, let me quote mothers on Sri Aurobindo and conclude. From a spiritual point of view, India is the foremost country in the world. From a spiritual point of view, India is the foremost country in the world. Its mission is to give the example of spirituality. And Sri Aurobindo came on earth to teach this to the world. Thank you and namaskar to all. And with my gratitude, let me conclude here. Thank you.